US President Joe Biden says the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, has a sacred obligation to protect every inch of its territory with full force. He's been speaking in the Polish capital, Warsaw, following a meeting with his counterpart in that country over efforts to bolster assistance for the people of Ukraine. Biden has sent a strong warning to Russian President Vladimir Putin to avoid NATO territory at all costs during his invasion of Kyiv and broader areas of Ukraine.
But as I've made clear, American forces are in Europe, not in Europe, to engage in conflict with Russian forces. American forces are here to defend NATO allies. Yesterday I met with the troops that are serving alongside our Polish allies to bolster NATO's frontline defenses. The reason we want to make clear is their movement on Ukraine. Don't even think about moving on one single inch of NATO territory. We have sacred obligation. We have a sacred obligation under Article 5 to defend each and every inch of NATO territory with the full force of our collective power.
Well, let's get a live update now from Ukraine. We can speak to journalist Adil Bradlow, who is a journalist based in Ukraine at the moment and has been there for the weeks that the fighting has been unfolding. And Adil, good to see you're speaking to us tonight with low light because you're right at the front line. Give us an idea of where you are and what's been going on.
Okay, so I'm in the northeastern Ukrainian town of Kharkiv. It's the second largest city in Ukraine. We have Russian forces to the north and to the east of us. And there have been several engagements over the last week or so between Ukrainians and the Russians. They're getting pushed back. Much of the action at the moment is in the south. The Russian action in Mariupol, which everybody knows about. It's been under bombardment now for nearly a month. The humanitarian situation there is dire. It's quite interesting today, though, that the Russians actually fired a couple of rockets at the western town of Lviv, probably sending a message to Joe Biden that he must be careful about entering the war on behalf of the Ukrainians.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Kharkiv, where you are. There appear to be increasing reports about the volatility of that part of Ukraine at the moment. Is there a clear sense of who has the upper hand between the warring parties?
So basically, the Russian offensive, initially the Russian offensive was directed in like a two-pronged assault. One prong coming out of the Crimea, heading towards the Donetsk region in the south, to build a land bridge between Crimea and Russia, and to, as Vladimir Putin puts it, denazify and liberate the territories of Ukraine. And then the other prong, which is sort of where we are in the north, towards Kyiv and towards Kharkiv. Now, Kharkiv is a mainly Russian-speaking city. About 1.5 million inhabitants before the war. It's probably down to about half of that right now. And the Russians clearly came here thinking they would be welcomed with open arms. And clearly that has not been the case. They have faced fierce Ukrainian resistance, and they have basically, their assault here has ground to a halt for a number of reasons. Poor logistics, poor command, and fierce Ukrainian resistance. So basically around Kyiv and around Kharkiv here in the northeast, the Russian advance is basically ground to a halt, and the Ukrainians are now pushing them back.
And what about
in the towns? Sorry, carry on.
Pardon me. What about civilians who still wish to leave places such as Kharkiv? Is there clear, safe passage for them?
There are a couple of ways out. They can go by train. The railway lines, the railway links are still operating, and people are leaving on a daily basis on trains to the west and to the south. And then there's the roads. The roads are a little more dodgy. It's taking. There are quite a few risks in traveling on the roads, but yes, there's still a lot of people traveling on the roads, traveling south towards the Slovak Republic, and west towards Poland.
we're losing our connection to you slightly, but we were listening earlier to the U.S. President Joe Biden making remarks in Poland, which has taken in the bulk of refugees from Ukraine. And one of the things he said was that the war on Ukraine by the Russians will not end within a matter of days, a matter of months. Is that the feeling among Ukrainian civilians, that they're in this for the long haul?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And they're going to give not a single inch of territory without considerable Russian blood and treasure being spilt. They are, I have, in my many years of traveling around the world covering conflict situations, I have never seen a sense of national solidarity and cohesion in the face of an onslaught like this. The Ukrainians are fighting for every inch of territory, and they're not giving an inch. I mean, if you look at the situation in Mariupol, for example, overwhelming Russian firepower has bombarded that city into oblivion. The International Red Cross, the ICRC, have called it apocalyptic, the situation there apocalyptic. People have been living in their bunkers. There is a trickle of people coming out on a daily basis, a couple of thousand more or less every day, who just had enough of being stuck in their cellars and having no food, no heating. It's early spring here, but the temperatures are still in the very low very low temperatures. I mean, until about a week ago, everything was in the minuses. The light keeps going up. Sorry, I have no control over the lighting situation here.
Not a problem.
See if this opens up.
Not a problem, Adil. Let's just continue a bit further. I want to talk about, you mentioned that Kyiv is a mainly Russian-speaking city. You said that the Russian forces have not been received with hugs and open arms by the people there. But is there any sympathy at all for the Russian position, the intention, it says, to denazify Ukraine and, to a degree, avenge people in the eastern parts of the country, which it says have been subjected to long-term suffering by the Ukrainians in areas such as Donbass?
Let me correct you on that. I mean, basically, the rebellion in Donetsk and Luhansk was orchestrated by the Kremlin. It's not a natural rebellion. There were tensions between Russian speakers and Ukrainian speakers, but in the aftermath of the invasion, I mean, prior to the invasion, there was ambivalence by the Russian speakers towards the Ukrainian government. But since the Russians invaded, the overwhelming majority of Russian speakers here have joined in the fighting effort. They've joined the National Army, they've joined the various territorial forces and the militias that have been set up, and they are fighting tooth and nail to stop the Russians from taking over, because they don't want to be part of Russia, despite what Putin might think. And the really interesting thing is that they have joined in this whole national effort to oppose the Russian advance. This has been a massive shock to the Kremlin, because they thought this campaign would be over in a matter of days. We're now into the 5th week of the campaign, and it's going badly for them.
Adil Bradlow, good to speak to you once again. A journalist speaking to us from the city of Kyiv in Ukraine tonight. Thank you for your time. Stay safe.